I have today the Niwalker's latest release. It's the 550N3. This model is actually an upgrade to their 550N2. Most of the changes are predominantly cosmetics and construction wise, although they did throw in this new tail clip. And get into the accessories here. It comes in this nondescript plain cardboard packaging, which is eco-friendly. Nice little touch there. So again, not really no markings or anything beyond that other than indicating it's an NWK series light. Within there is a printed instruction manual on a plain piece of paper, as well as the specs. Alright, and there's also a warranty card that has a embossed, I guess, seal, if you will. Not really sure if you can see that, but there's also a proper lanyard included in there as well. Now, there is this very nice holster, which I'll get back to later. It is, probably one of the best I've seen. It does feature a unique feature that I'll again dive into later. So, on to the light itself. Now, this light features a XML LED, which is perfectly centered in that smooth reflector. Try to get the light over here a little bit, so you can see that a little better. You do see there's anti-reflective coating on the lens. And as mentioned, it is perfectly centered through that mold there that surrounds the LED. Now it does feature what is known as a turbo head, in that the head of the light is a little bit larger and flares out. It's not the same diameter as the body. There are these heat fins here and what looks to be an anti-roll ring, but that's actually purely just cosmetic, because as you can see, there really isn't much of an anti-roll at all. So that's one thing to keep in mind. It's followed by additional, I suppose, either design elements or heat fins, and then these grooves here. Now, as for the engraving itself, everything is very nicely sharp. It's got their symbol, their logo, as well as the model number, and what I presume either one of these is the serial number. Perhaps it's a little bit busy, but for my taste at least. And there are no other engravings beyond that. There is this combat ring that I presume can be slid around to suit one's needs, but again, given I'm neither Leo or military, I'm not going to get into that aspect. I actually can't move this for some reason, but I'll cover that in my review. It does allow for a cigar grip hold and activation of the light in that manner. So now, as for the tail cap itself, you will notice there are two switches here. This switch is dedicated to the strobe function, so regardless if the light is on and off, it will activate strobe instantly, whereas this is sort of like the master on-off switch, as well as sorry, let me backtrack a second. Okay, the UI features two modes. Okay, there is one mode that allows you to have mode changes as well as instant access to strobe, and there's another mode that is what is known as a tactical mode, that is fixed on high, but yet still allows you access to the tactical strobe. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this piece of paper, and for assisting the camera's autofocus, I'm going to actually just use the diffuser lens. Now, these lenses that you see, filters I should say, that you see on the side here are actually optional, was sent to me for testing as well. I'll cover that in depth in my review. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and fire up the light. So the camera is on auto white balance. Unfortunately, it's not doing a fairly good job of it. That beam is nowhere near that blue that you're seeing on the screen. All right. So right now I'm in the variable mode, so meaning there's high, medium, and then low, in that order. Okay, given the smooth reflector, it is a pretty decent thrower. I did take this light camping with me, and as you'll see in my Labor Day camping thread, it does a very respectable job out towards 500 feet and perhaps greater. Okay. Now, again, this side switch here will activate strobe instantly regardless of which mode that you're in. Okay, so with the light on, hit it, activates instant strobe. Hit it again to shut it off. Now, if you press and hold that side switch for greater than 2.5 seconds, you'll see that it activates a fixed mode. The strobe still works. However, now this main switch no longer changes modes. regardless of how you depress it. So the light is now in tactical mode. You use it for signaling purposes, and it always comes on in high. Alright, press and hold that for another 2.5 seconds to exit that, and you're able to switch modes again. So this light actually does compare very, very similarly to the ThruNight's TN11S, with the major exception of that function, which I think could come in very handy again for tactical purposes. Again, I'm not a Leo or military, so I'm not going to get into that aspect, but something to keep in mind if you are looking for that feature. Now towards the tail cap, there is this groove here for the lanyard attachment, and there's this flare here that I suppose could be used for, I guess, glass breakage purposes, right? If you hit it at the right angle, correct angle, it will be able to impact whatever it is that you're hitting. But on the other hand, though, there is no other obstruction here that gives you nice and clear access to this switch. Right? Switch does have a nice, decent, firm grip feeling to it. Very nice, solid mechanical click to the light. Okay. Now, just going to remove the tail for a second. Now, one thing that I immediately noticed, and this is my first exposure to Niwalker's lights, is that the light, it just exudes quality. It just feels extremely solid, very, very well crafted. There are these nice square cut threads on the ends here, and it did come amply greased, so I basically didn't really have to do anything with it. Okay. I'm going to replace the tail cap for a second and get onto the head side. So it can be disassembled as such, and this stainless steel bezel can be removed, so I assume you could access the reflector, which I actually won't do a deep dive here, but I'll get into later. Here's a close-up shot of the XML LED. Okay, and as mentioned, Niwalker did provide these filters for me to test, and you simply unscrew the bezel and you would thread the filter on. And again, they feel very solidly constructed, very nice. Anodizing finish is flawless that I can see, although you can probably pick it up here. The filter is a little bit darker black than the light itself. But oops, let me go ahead and pop that battery back in. So we could go ahead and test out the diffuser. So I was provided with a diffuser, and I guess for the main colors, there's red, blue, yellow, and green, depending on your needs. And this is now the beam. Let me grab a different filter to help the autofocus. That's red there. So unfortunately, I guess due to the auto exposure, it's not quite capturing this properly. This hotspot that you're seeing, that I'm seeing on the screen, is actually non-existent. It's actually a very nice bright corona here that spreads out pretty smoothly. So if I pull it back a little, you will see that it just blends in very, very nice, smooth, and it is quite diffused. But I think if I get in closer, again, the auto exposure is exaggerating that hotspot. It's nowhere near that obvious that I'm seeing. Okay, so in the interest of time, I'm actually going to just pop in one more filter. That's the red one. Now I suppose red is to preserve your night vision. And grab another filter for the autofocus. And again, due to, I guess, the auto exposure and the auto white balance, that appears orangish, and again, that hotspot is nowhere near that strong as I'm seeing. Get to a lower level. So again, it's not that orange, it's actually, well, I guess slightly orangish red, but it could just be because, you know, the fluorescent light in the room as well that's affecting this. I will be taking my standard indoor shots for comparison purposes of all these filters, so you could get a much better idea of the filters in actual use. Okay, Now, I actually did want to get back to this holster. So as mentioned, it just feels very, very solidly put together. It's not one of those generic cheapies that are typically thrown in with every light. There is what I feel, I guess, is either rubber with their logo embossed on here, and standard Velcro strap. There is a fixed belt loop here that you could thread your belt through, and this will just not give. Right. There is additional Velcro loop here so that you could, depending on your use, so if you want it fixed and don't want it loose, you could thread it through here, and if you want easy removal, you could thread your belt through here. Now it is a fixed standard 1-inch, so it's compatible with Molle systems. Okay, and there is this D loop here as well. Now the thing that I thought was pretty interesting, that was a very nice touch, was so it can be used, bezel up or bezel down, although bezel up is a little bit easier, right? So with bezel up, now you'll notice that there are these two little tabs here, and the reason for that is this is I guess flexible, expandable, and you can actually have a little pouch here on the side to carry additional batteries with. Now these are full-length 18650s. Now the reason why I said it was easier bezel up is also the inserting the batteries is easier with the bezel up as well. All right, so with those two batteries in place, doesn't really compromise the size too badly, although this is bulging out a little bit, but I suppose if you get past the head and past those grooves down, it would fit a little bit better. But it does feel reasonably solid that I don't feel like the battery's going to jog loose. Okay, so thought that's a pretty nice little touch for this holster. Okay, I guess removal with the two batteries installed is a little bit more difficult because I guess with these flares, and it is pushing in on the inside. Oops, yikes, that's not good. And okay, so that covers that holster. Again, one last pass through of the light, and I will be fleshing out my review in the coming days. Thanks again for watching, and as part of FCC disclosure, the 550N3 was provided by Niwalker for review. Cheers.